child, and we don't know if she's gonna support us or
Well,
not.
there's a lot of like food pantries and soup kitchens around New York City and around probably in your
Yeah.
area too.
The problem is we eat kosher, and the
Oh,
kosher, the Jewish agent, the Sephardic Jewish agency that gives food is now not delivering, and I can't go pick it up because I'm disabled. And they have a website. You can only order twice a month, and it's on points, and the points don't roll over, and it's a whole big.
Marcel, why don't we'll talk. There might be someone I can send to help pick up that food for you, okay?
Oh,
And
wow.
food stamps is stopping November 1st.
Yes,
Uh,
yes. The federal government, and I just heard it on the news, and my friend told me they sent her an email, and she
I
asked her
didn't hear anything.
cousin who works for the federal government. She said it's true. They're stopping
Yeah.
All
everybody
right.
in the whole country.
Yeah.
Oh
Well,
my
you
God.
guys, we're here for a very special reason, and that is boom. All right.
Okay.
Welcome to a very special Saturday spirituality group. We have our guest, and here is the information you need to know about our guest.
Is
He
it?
was, I don't know. Well, it's a story. It's a story. It might not reflect the inner experience, but it's a good story. Born and raised in Wisconsin, Ishtar, born Thomas Howell, lived both a strange and normal life. A near-death experience at age 13 produced a profound but ephemeral spiritual awakening and ultimately sparked an ardent quest for enlightenment. Through intensive meditation using the Ishayas Ascension meditation practice, he reached a permanent state of Samadhi. Having worked many jobs, gardener, builder, and writer, to name a few, Ishtar currently lives in Portugal, working as a meditation teacher and an intuitive archetypal astrologer. As a meditation teacher, he teaches people effortless means of relaxing into samadhi. As an astrologer, he offers readings that illuminate each client's unique journey, blending mystical insight and astrological analysis. Welcome, Ishtar.
Thank you very much.
All right, you go ahead now. We'll be quiet.
Oh, what should I do?
Oh, you can talk about anything that's on your mind, whether it be your personal spiritual journey or
Hmm.
anything at all. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Absolutely. I'm happy to go and happy to have interjections and questions and whatever come up in the middle because that's just fine too. Uh, because I'd like to speak on stuff that people are very much interested in. So be my guest if you need to cut in. Well, let's see. Hmm. And I have another question. Is everyone in this Zoom mostly in New York?
Let's see. Frank is from Boston, and
Hmm.
everyone else is from New. Oh, and Fred. Fred, you're from up. Where are you from, Fred?
I'm in New Rochelle, which is
Oh,
just outside New York City.
Okay, okay. I'm always curious with these little online electronic gatherings, and actually the mountains behind you, Frederick, were quite fetching to me.
That's
So
Alaska.
that's it didn't look like it did
No,
not look like what I.
that's Alaska, and it indeed is fetching.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Yeah. So I'm in hot Portugal right now. Worked up a bit of a sweat in the garden. We I'm in a town that time forgot. It's a lovely place to be. There's more sheep and ghosts than living people, probably. Life started in Wisconsin, as you saw in that little bio. I think I was born in the early 1980s. I had a highly politically interested family, which it's maybe neither here nor there to what we're talking about, but dinner table discussions were extremely lively, well, to say the least. Yeah, that was a wonderful time. I enjoyed kind of just chilling out and letting everyone else kind of yell at each other in a good-natured way. My life was weird, I suppose, though I didn't think of it as weird, and that as a kid, uh, I had all sorts of strange activities happening in my little bedroom. So one of my earliest memories, for instance, is sitting in my crib before I was able to talk, before I was able to walk, before I was able to even escape out of the crib on my own. And just sitting there in the dark hours before dawn, as I did, sort of looking at the curtains and kind of enjoying really a meditative space. And then a woman walked into my room, which was not an unusual thing. Only uh, she walked right past me without looking at me, and then walked out the back wall of my room. And I thought, well, God, I've never seen anybody walk through a wall before. And I thought, when I'm able to get out of this crib on my own, I'm going to try that and get out. I did try that. It didn't work. Not not for me, obviously. A few years later, I was looking at a picture book with my mother, and we came to one page, and there was the woman that had walked past my crib, and in the same nightgown with the same white lacy collar on a blue paisley nightgown with fluffy white curly hair on top, and it would happen to be my great grandmother who died the year before I was born, and she was the probably the first of many that happened in childhood, and somehow that was. I think that was made me grow up very quickly, psychologically speaking, because I had to sort of deal with, 50-year-old people standing next to my bed in the middle of the night. Uh, I looked at it basically as the imagination, so which was good because one, that took a little bit of the edge off, uh, and two, it wasn't something that I had to repress because that was accepted. Anyhow, that was that. I think that's always been part of this life. I think death became an awakener later on. I remember from age 7 to age 13. At the start of that, I was in a parent-teacher conference with my mother, and it was my kindergarten teacher. So I must have been 6. And the kindergarten teacher told my mother, he has a great personality, and I had no idea what she meant by that. That was my first time encountering the word personality in a way that I was interested in it. So I asked my mother, what's a personality? And then she went on to explain, I think very well, what that was. She was in night school studying to be a psychotherapist. So there's a lot of psychobabble, in the house as well. And once she explained it, then I thought, oh my God, that's what I've been missing out on. Because up to that point, I was starting to be very confused at why people, I could tell, felt or meant something, but then spoke or behaved in a completely different way than they felt or meant. I found it very confusing, and now I understood. I basically understood the duplicity and sometimes triplicity. I suppose I thought I just need to get a filtering system like all these other people have. This is going to be great. And so right after that day, for the next several months, when I would put my clothes on for the day, and my mother would basically tell me, help me pick stuff out and shove turtlenecks over my head. After that, I would tell her, today, here's my backstory. Use the term backstory like an actor, but I was like, yeah, I was affected by this thing, so now I have a chronic phobia of this. Blank, 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 and I would stick to it the day in a disciplined manner, without deviation, because I thought that's what everybody's doing. They are just basically putting on a costume. And so I did that. That went on for every day, each day a different person, each day a different type, and then at some point one of them stuck. And so that was that was the start of a supposedly fun thing that maybe I should not have gotten into, but we all do. So, I went through life 7 to 13, as most people do, kind of concretizing their ego. And then one day it kind of just got smashed. And it got smashed as in that little bio. I was one night having a conversation with my mother. I had actually just broken my arm getting hit by a pitch playing baseball. So that was my big bummer. I was like, oh no, and I was just talking with her, and basically, I had these words pop out of my mouth. Are you going to die soon? Which was very strange because I had never had any worries about her health at all, or her mortality, or any of that. I worried about my dad because he ate way too many mayonnaise and bologna sandwiches, and paired with way too much Diet Coke, and that was not looking like it was going in a good way. And then, she said, no, not for a long time. And I was like, yeah, I don't know where that came from. And I went to bed, and then I woke up the next morning, basically springing out of my bed. And I sprung out of my bed just as my parents were walking outside the door. And I had, again, words shooting out of my mouth without any forethought. And they were, there's something I really have to tell you. And I was really catching my breath as if I'd just run into my body, like run into my physical body from somewhere else. And only I couldn't find the message. I was so distraught that I couldn't find this thing, and they had to kind of chill me out for about 5 minutes, just to get me straight. And I was like, yeah, I don't know where that came from. And so 8 hours later, my mother and I had just dropped my sister off and at her new workplace on the edge of town, and we drove out and got hit by a car. That just couldn't have been seen. It was on the speeding, but on the other side of a car that was going the right speed limit. And yeah, and in that moment, basically had the ego structure peeled off, very, very, very quickly. I had actually always wondered about people who, had their life flash before their eyes. To me, and I was skeptical of it. I was like, "Oh, that sounds very interesting, but how could that be possibly happen in a millisecond in that kind of perfect detail?" It seemed fascinating, but and there indeed it was. I was basically sure that this life was over, and instead of seizing up and bolstering myself against the impact, something deeper just decided to turn me into a wet noodle and make me completely relax. And I was completely okay that this is basically going to be it. I thought it was strange. I thought somebody switched the scripts on me. I didn't think this one was going to be only 13 years. And then there it was, the life review, every moment in complete detail, in a seamless kind of flow, in a more fully remembered way than I was able to access typically, and from many perspectives all at the same time. And not just my own life, but it was as if I was remembering every point of consciousness and every scene of life that was played out. And any place where I had, basically, been an asshole or acted out of fear and tried to hide who I was and present something else. And every little thing like that was sort of experienced as this kind of like a contraction, some kind of fighting against a natural flow. And so each one of those things was really deeply, deeply seen and felt, and then kind of released. I was being taken through this by what I could, basically best describe as some kind of omniscient and completely objective aspect of consciousness or facet of consciousness. We could call it higher self, God, you know, guardian angel. I've never tried to put it into a framework. It was just there. And it was actually a flavor of consciousness that had come to me quite frequently in life, but usually I tried to run from it. Usually it would come and I'd be like, no, no, I've got this covered. I'm going to do it my way, basically. But here I was completely open to this thing, and here we were going through the life, and it was as if an invisible film had been on me for years and years. Like an invisible film that had the weight of the world to it, and with each bit of life that was sort of forgiven, It was as if it was being peeled off until we got to the final end. It was completely off. And there was no tunnel. There were no dead relatives and anything like that in my case. I wasn't even, dead yet, I suppose. I guess we were doing it ahead of time. But there was the realization that every everything that I had ever experienced, every moment of life had in fact been, even in my language at age 13 at that, had in fact actually been love. Everything had actually that it was love was not what I was understanding it to be, some sort of ephemeral emotion that you can, be in or be out of, or be given or give, in a way. It wasn't, that whole understanding was just completely, kaput. There was a sense that the thing that people are trying to, the essence of what people are trying to point at when they use that word was that it was a fundamental constituent of life in the universe. That it was a much bigger thing. It was this singular substance of which everything, my body, the trees, the car that was about to hit us, this and that and everything else, every memory had been warped and formed out of this singular suchness. I could have used the word love, could have used all sorts of other words because they're just placeholders, right, for something. But there was a realization that in that same moment there was a sense, oh my God, the actually who I am was not this little tiny, neurotic commentator, kind of driving around up here and trying to, run towards some things and avoid other things and, manage in a complex way. Like that was such a little thing that the actual I was this entire space all at once, everything all at once, everywhere. And so then, we got hit by this big old gray Lincoln. I certainly got knocked out. I remember I was concussed, and I remember hitting my head against the car door. Somehow I managed not to get injured. I did also break the middle finger on my broken arm. So I went around the whole summer with a cast that had me in this um, position, which was a good, yeah, I don't know, it was good comic relief. I felt like from my mother's or the Angels of Comedy or the Angels of Life to soften the blow of not having a mother anymore, to be forced to basically go around like with a cast in that form. But yeah, my mother got the brunt of the impact. I was somehow this 13-year-old Jello thing in some kind of Samadhi space, so that probably is as good as being drunk in terms of surviving an accident or maybe better. We were in the ambulance together, and she was clearly trying to stay in that body of hers. Her breathing was very difficult, very, strained and irregular. She called my name
Yeah.
twice, and I know that she heard me the second time that I responded to her, because her breathing turned on a dime to something very calm and relaxed and sort of let go. Of course, I didn't put two and two together that this would be my last exchange in a body with her, but it turned out to be. And so that was an alarm clock. Not we all don't get alarm clocks. We all don't need alarm clocks, and we certainly all don't need them in that magnitude. They can come in much simpler forms. Uh, about 3 days after that happened, I started to notice that I wasn't afraid of anything anymore. I also noticed that I no longer had a neurotic commentator as sort of the center of how I navigated through life. I even noticed it was very different when I used the word I. It didn't come with all the baggage that was in the head that was typically there. So it was very strange, and my list of things that were being noticed kind of started to grow. And at first I thought, what the hell is going on? What is this? And so I tried to look at my mom's psychology books, found something by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. And I was thinking, oh, this has got to be shock. And I was thinking, oh my God, if I'd only known that, shock was this good, I would have like jumped off the roof, because this is great. I love this shock. But as the as the symptoms list kind of grew, then I was like, okay, I don't think this is shock. There was one day I was about to ask my father if he was if he was feeling bliss. Strange. Why would I even think to ask that? I don't know, but I guess I wanted to reach out to somebody in a way and reach out to my dad. And then as soon as I started to think to pronounce the consonant D at the start, this inner voice erupted from the depths and saying like, the answer is no, and it's better that you don't share your process with those around you. You want to give yourself some time to explore this without having any other elements kind of coming in and messing around with it. You're kind of fragile still. That was the advice. So I followed that advice. I'm glad I did. So that I could, because it was wild. In those days, I was experiencing grief like crazy. I mean, and in a different way, because if I hadn't had this sense of deep, vast silence and this sense of this deep kind of abiding bliss, I'm absolutely sure that I would have tried to run from all these very powerful emotions that you get when somebody that you love dies. And so it was a strange thing to have this absolute raging waterfall of emotion flowing through, and then as if I was standing in a silent cave right next to this water, experiencing it fully, but also experiencing fully this kind of big silent space. And so this went on for maybe 2, 3 months until the next school year started, basically over a summer vacation. And near the end of it, I realized that I was about to lose that state, because I was talking to a high schooler who I knew and who was apparently noticed that I was internally different now. Nobody was really noticing, which suited me very well. But he asked like, how could I experience whatever that thing you're experiencing? And I told him, laughingly, I said, you just gotta go and almost die, but not. Maybe go get yourself in a car accident and get somebody like drive against a wall, at high speed, and we both, laughed, of course, because that's really sketchy advice, not really a good idea. And it was as soon as I said that, I knew, this is gonna end, and that was fine. And so when it ended, it was an extremely painful year, of which was probably good, to continue to experience grief, but without the sense of a deep core of silence as the center of all things, to kind of go back and try to sort of be much more egocentric again, or much more centered in that sort of exclusively centered in that little separate self mechanism. That was to have known a different way of functioning, and then to go back into it was much more painful than to have just stayed in it, without knowing an alternative. So that was wild, and that's eventually that turned into spiritual seeking. That turned to I had no idea. I wasn't grown. I wasn't raised with a religious context. I knew a smattering of details about different religions, but nothing serious, in that way. So I really didn't have any context beyond, go get close to death and cool things happen. And so I decided, about a year later, I said, I got to get back to whatever that was. So I started, commandeering older friends who had driver's licenses to allow me to jump out of the passenger sides of the car at low speed. Not I didn't want to hurt myself, but I thought like I gotta get, then I had a friend who had a golf cart. Their parents were caretakers for a very big property, so I said, let's get this sucker up to 20, or something as close as we could get. I jumped out of that, and I thought if I could scare myself, or if I could that somehow some mechanism would shift. And when I almost broke an arm doing that, I decided I better stop, because my dad's going to get really pissed off if I come home with a broken arm from jumping out of a golf cart. Then I started telling everybody any kind of embarrassing secrets that I had, strangers, people close to me, And that actually went really well, but then I ran out of embarrassing information. I didn't have enough skeletons in the closet to have a little bit of a kick to that. And thank God my sister took me into a metaphysical bookstore. So and we basically I opened up a book at random on Himalayan meditation practices, and that was it. And once I did that, then thankfully somehow meditation teachers were in my town at that time, a little tiny town in Wisconsin. And so I started to hang out with them and learn from them and try to do as many practices as possible. And eventually, uh, a few years later, it was as if there was some kind of crazy monk living inside my chest who I was afraid to let take the reins of this life. I was like, oh, if I open that box to that, you know, this life might be exploded. And somehow watching a few movies in a row, sure they could have been any movies, but watching a few movies in a row was the were the straws that broke the camel's back. I think I watched the beautiful film Baraka from 1991. I watched Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon, Zeffirelli's film from 1972, the St. Francis film, and I watched Gandhi. So somehow those 3 nights in a row, that was like, by God, we're good. We have to do this. We have to give into this because this seems to be the true thing. And so once I did that, then it was meditation 6 hours a day of doing breathing practices and Zen practices primarily. Those were kind of hard ass because they were more or less in sort of the concentration school. And to a Midwesterner, in the Midwest, we're very much no pain, no gain sorts of people. That's kind of even if you're not Protestant, the Protestant work ethic is pretty much ingrained, and so that the concentration model made a whole lot of sense. It's like, of course, if it's such a wonderful thing and it's going to take you 80 lifetimes of this training or something like that. And so I would do that, and maybe by the end of the end of my deepest practice at night, I would probably so exhaust myself that I would fall into just a few morsels of delightful silence. That was not, a silence beyond the absence of noise, beyond quiet versus noisy. And thank God, Yogananda's autobiography. I don't know if anyone's enjoyed that book in this room, but Autobiography of a Yogi came into my life, and somehow just simply reading that book opened up vistas of the heart. Yeah, certainly pointed me in a direction where I realized, no, I didn't really have to be like fasting and starving myself and taking cold showers at 3 in the morning every day and doing all the crazy sort of ascetical stuff that I was doing. I was really driving myself very, very hard because I basically thought that one had to make an enemy out of the mind, or an enemy out of the ego. Even some of the neo-Buddhist teachers with books out at the time were basically saying that, that the mind is a naughty monkey, and you have to, before you get these things, you have to somehow learn how to chain it, and I actually got pretty good at it. But thank God of a completely different strategy was presented, which is that yeah, sure, the mind can at sometimes be a very naughty monkey, really not not doing well by us at times, but that's not all that it is. In fact, if we just give it bananas, uh, that works much better than trying to chain it up. And so I realized, oh, actually, I have had bananas in this life. I just wasn't looking at it like that. I realized that in fact, the reason why different spiritual teachers call samadhi or silence or Maslow's peak experience, which I think the core of Maslow's peak experience, the core of that is really probably samadhi, when we come down to it. It's natural. It is natural. It is not something that when we're in it, we don't fight against it. I didn't find, I haven't found yet anywhere in Maslow's research, unless they didn't publish it, that there was a subset of people who when they were talking about their peak experience, were like, oh yeah, and then all my worries and all my regrets fell away, and I was suddenly in the midst of a completely lucid presence. Nobody nobody then goes on to say, "Oh fuck that shit! I have to get out of this awful state as soon as possible." It's completely uh, completely nourishing, completely of completely delightful. There's nothing about it that has to be fought. I think there's many numbers of different ways that all human beings can get themselves sort of in that direction. And I don't think it takes 40 years or 4 years or 2 years or 1 year even of like, crazy maniacally disciplined effort to start having really delightful spoonfuls of that honey when they come in. I think, in fact, that we are given little doses of the honey, and then it actually motivates us to perhaps extend our practice time or make other like life changes that otherwise we would not have the wherewithal to do. So, before, effortless approaches to meditation, yeah, I was doing a lot of like, crazy diets that absolutely it felt like 70% of my mind was screaming and saying, fuck this, but I was somehow iron willing myself through it. I actually felt like I could kill someone. Not that I was angry at anybody. It just felt like, my goodness, I feel sharp, in a way. And then I would watch sometimes when I would do these crazy fasts as a teenager, and I was this ascetic. I would like witness myself almost dissociated, like eating like 4 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at one time. Like and then having like a terrible a terrible bowel movements later. And so later, doing sort of a more pleasant, delightful path, there wasn't this kind of seesaw action anymore. I found that like habits weren't necessarily things I had to put much conscious effort into steering. They kind of just fell away in an odd sense. And always reminded of a story from Yogananda's monastery in Los Angeles. This was in like the 40s. So he had a crop of later life young people who came to him after reading his book. And one guy came up and was absolutely enamored with him. And he came up and he said, Yogananda, could I come here and practice yoga in Kriya with you all? And he said, and Yogananda said, sure, of course. But then the guy said, like, well, you got to know that I do like playing pool and smoking, and being with the ladies at the bar, and I understand that that's not allowed here. Yogananda did kind of run like a sort of an old school ship in that way, but then he just looked at them and just said like, no, no, for you it's fine. Uh, you keep on going to that bar, and doing that, but you have to cut me a deal, kid. And that basically the deal was, okay, you're going to do that, but then you're going to come here and you're going to do Kriya with us. But if you start to find that naturally you lose the taste for cigarettes and you find yourself not wanting cigarettes anymore, then you have to go with it. Can you make me that deal? And the guy said, sure, absolutely. Apparently it did him very well in that way. And so, basically that was essentially the mold that my fellow students were in a different meditation practice, is that we were monastics, and but we're now living fairly. We probably could have gone for more pool playing, actually, but we were a little bit too serious of a lot. There was a pool hall just down the road from our little ashram, but that was what we were doing. Uh, I'll tell another story. This turns into a series of stories. I showed up at this ashram as an 18-year-old, and I had been practicing this Ishayas Ascension meditation, which is just sort of like an effortless, almost like effortless practice of prayer mantras. I'd been doing it for, very intently for several months, and so I was, yeah, very gung ho. And basically, I show up there and they give me a directive. Like one of the younger teachers maybe said, like, you need to find Samadhi, basically, which probably wasn't a very good setup because it's not something that's helpful to, look for in that sense. But that's what they told me. It's like, okay, I'm going to find Samadhi, and I was very type A. And so I was getting so crazy about this, which part of my experience is it? I got to get back to it. What is it? How do I get there? That I started having this dream that would turn into a lucid dream. And I had this dream a few times. And basically the dream was I was standing in a forest and then several feet in front of me was basically what I looked like when I was 6. A very good representation of and once I would see this boy, I would realize I would go lucid because I would feel, oh, my inner child, because it was such an obvious symbol. And the inner child represented presence, samadhi, that state of the relaxed nervous system, that mystical state of where the worries about the future and the regrets about the past fall away. And so I was like remembering my directive. I was chasing him. It's like I thought I had to like tag him, basically. And so I was running around, and after enough of these dreams, I just stopped. I realized I was like, God, the harder I try, the quicker he gets. He's so obnoxious. He's laughing at me from behind these trees. And so as soon as I stopped, I felt a hand grab my hand in the dream space, and as that was samadhi. That basically made me realize, oh, that's that part of this meditative experience. That's it. How strange to have been missing it. Uh, and that was an early thing. Then, of course, I think I wasn't all that clear. Still, that's a thing people sometimes when they're doing meditation practices. I don't know how many in here are meditators or off and on, but a lot of people can get frustrated. They'll be chasing sort of those sorts of really like high experiences they find like are wonderful and extraordinary, and can get frustrated when actually other very necessary experiences come up, which we could call de-stressing or detoxing or unwinding. And because we're not just dealing with a mind, we're dealing with a mind, body, psyche, kind of a whole multi-layered Russian nested doll structure. And there are like for instance the body in some ways I'd say very much moves much more slowly than the mind. And so you could have like a wonderful deep meditative experience where you feel like, oh my God, I'm nowhere and everywhere, and I'm as big as everything, and all this love is flowing through me, and all this great sort of experience. And then that'll put the body at rest. But then when the body goes to rest, it's like, oh, thank God, now I can self-heal because I'm in extremely deep and restful state. But when the body starts to self-heal, all sorts of shit comes up. Everything that needs to come up will come up because we've been like, our bodies are actually quite so amazing. We've been stuffing all this shit into them. I mean, I'm talking about like emotional shit, not like sausages. Maybe those do, but stuffing all this tension and it builds up and it has to come out. Most of us are taught to, even if it's not explicitly, it might be implicitly, we're taught to stuff, certain emotions, often different for each person, depending on our biography, our parents and teachers, and whoever was around in the early years. But one of the things I was taught was to stuff anger, which usually is strange for a boy. It's encouraged, but I was bigger than everybody, and my parents expected me to be the one to keep a cool head, in a sort of hard situations, and they didn't want me beating other people. I didn't want to beat other people up. It's not a good thing. And so the only way I knew how to deal with anger, if I was to sort of fit into it, was to stuff it, of course. And so about 4 months into being in this ashram, it was as if some lid was removed on a barrel in the stomach, and all this compressed, repressed rage was coming out with no little to no provocation. I was a walking, as the water boy would say, medulla oblongata. No, I was a bad movie reference number one for you all. I was a walking limbic system. And so some people, when they experience stuff like that, they'll be like, oh shit, this is no good. I gotta, veer away from this. Thank God I had enough people around who could allow me to have some expression without taking me seriously, and and also being out taking me seriously in the sense of creating a very safe space for me to unwind, and everything else too has to come out. So that's also meditation paths are very dynamic in that sense. You will every there's nothing that can stay hidden. And then I can't count the people I've known, self included here, who will have just bizarre outpicturings arranged in their life. Just people coming in who say the right thing or the wrong thing at the right time, or and to pop a pincushion when it needs to be popped. It's strange scenarios of coming about. And so yeah, people run from that. That's the stuff in the trenches. I remember there could be days of, especially if one's doing something very intensely, that then there'll be days of sadness, whatever. And I in some ways I do think that most A to B paths of spiritual unfoldment are actually very similar in plot structure to Dr. Seuss's Green Eggs and Ham, essentially. What I mean by that is like one is offered every scenario up, is can you be at peace in this? Can you be at peace here? Doesn't mean you have to prefer whatever scenario is in front of you or think it's absolutely delicious, but can you have natural equanimity here? Can you know samadhi in this space? And that's basically how it is, or how it was in my life, anyways.
All right. That was cool. Is this, can you hear me? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ishtar? Okay. All right. Um, anyone just unmute yourself and engage with Ishtar. Now is your chance. I'm sure Angela has something, but I'm not going to pressure you, Angela. If you like, you can unmute. Let's give ourselves a couple minutes to take in what Ishtar has shared with us.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm a very friendly person. Very non-judgmental. Non-judgmental person. Yeah.
Well, my first question, Ishtar, is can you show us like how well your finger healed? Like which
Oh,
one?
it's perfect. It's really, I think, straight
Oh,
mainly.
so that's your right hand.
You're my right hand, my right
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah. Can you give us
Yeah.
the finger, please?
Yeah, it's
Thank you.
it really, they did a good job. It wasn't too bad of a break, That's
So, Marcel, you unmuted yourself. Do you have something to say?
Yes, maybe I forgot its name.
it happens to me all the
Ishtar.
time.
Ishavar.
Ishtar.
Ishtar. Can he explain more what samadhi is and how do you look it up to meditate
Mm.
with it?
So, if you've ever been in a moment where you've been perfectly present, where you've just say, if you've ever been in the flow state,
Mm-hmm.
in any time, the core, if you're to distill down that flow state, there'd be we could just about call it samadhi in a way. Now, samadhi is the same as what Eckhart Tolle would refer to as the now in his book, The Power of Now. The same thing, or what we don't really use this terminology much in our world, but old Christians used to regularly use the term the peace that passes all understanding. So it's a bit antiquated now. It's kind of passed out of modern parlance, but that was, I thought, also a very good way of talking about it. But yeah, that's basically that. And I actually think that that's why a lot of people love like painting or dancing or martial arts or all sorts of things, because it's actually can be a natural way into that state. But I do find that meditation practices, uh, maybe especially because we can sit down and close our eyes and have maybe less sensory input, are maybe more universally effective entryways into that space. And uh, I tend to think that practices that relax us
Uh,
instead of practices where we're having to like strain. I tend to think that for most people, practices that are relaxing will have the tendency of taking us into that space. And a lot of times it's like when I see people, experiencing it maybe more fully for the first time in a while, it's like they don't quite, it's natural for us to not quite know what to make of it. And so often at meditation classes, I've had people come out maybe on day two of a 2-day class, and they say like, I was sleeping but not sleeping.
ah,
Which sounds like a strange, right, thing to say, but it's such a universal way that words have been strung together to describe it. They're like, I just came from somewhere, but I can't quite recall, and they're not going out of their body. It's just samadhi is of obviously we're smuggling in from Sanskrit because I think Sanskrit has wonderful terms for this space. Uh, it's described in the first book called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, sort of like the core text of yoga philosophy, as consciousness with its movement stilled, which sounds very
yeah.
technical, or consciousness experiencing itself, or consciousness where the objects, and objects are thoughts or sensations or thoughts, we could say, where the objects of consciousness, thoughts, have sort of melted into that primordial state. Of course, a lot of people experience shades of this or flavors of this in their psychedelic experiences, though often, there could be. I'm giving you, Marcel, an overly long answer, so I hope that's okay. Uh,
Yes, I think I understand it. It's like being completely still in your mind, where you have no thoughts of anything. You're in a
yeah,
total meditative state, where you're in the here and now, and you're not worried about anything. You're not thinking of the future. You're not thinking of the past, and your
Uh,
thoughts are not getting distracted, and you're totally still in your mind. Like, uh, I remember when I was praying in the nighttime in the charismatic Catholic Church, when the
uh-huh.
priests would lay their hands on me and I would go in the spirit, and I would be perfectly still, and I wouldn't, it's not like an outer body experience.
Yeah,
Perfectly still and feeling healed. And it's just like being perfectly, uh, feeling perfectly good in your body.
yeah. I mean, that's perfect and beautiful, and absolutely, we could always. The funny thing is that we can always refine it a bit, and so like the core element of those experiences, the core element of those athletes or artists having peak experiences, the core is, if you sort of to boil it down, that's it. The
Uh-huh.
most refined value of that is it.
I see. Okay, great. Thanks.
all right. Um, so Ishtar, what are your superpowers?
Oh God, what are my superpowers? Cooking. No, not more more than that. Uh, no, my superpowers, I don't think I have any superpowers. I've always been very psychic. That's what people are into, that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Uh, that was there in childhood, helped me get through school with these. I mean, I was good at using the mind, but it's one of those kids where I would be on a history tour in a city that I didn't know, and I would start to just know the history of buildings that were about to come up, and I could then ask the tour guide, blah 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 blah, is this what happened there? And they would say yes. So stuff like that would be very spontaneous. My sister and I were almost like twins, but 7 years apart. That sounds right. She was my older sister. She let me hang out in her room a lot, which was cool. But we used to love when I was a little kid. She liked doing like psychic experiments. So we'd play the, what number am I thinking of game, or what's behind my head. We got very good at it. We didn't think anything. We just thought something like siblings are able to do. But that kind of sort of expanded. I in the ashram we weren't trying to be psychic or anything like that. We often viewed it as a potential distraction from what we were trying to develop. But I have to say that all the meditation made that stuff a bit more heightened. So that's a superpower. Uh, Probably looking at a birth chart, like one of the reasons I astrologize still, which was another thing I wasn't going to get into because I thought, oh, why should I be telling people about their personalities that perhaps they should become more free from, but is, you know, basically getting a sense of a person's inner psychological working very quickly and even to the point of it's very strange to have very detailed visions arise. Doesn't happen all the time, but have very detailed visions arise that are very specific, and then report them to someone, and then discover that I'm actually describing a dream somebody had throughout their whole life, like a repeating dream. And it's like, oh, that's interesting. So I don't think of that as a superpower because I think everybody has, shares dormant psi abilities like that, shares sort of dormant telepathic or clairsentient or these other things, and it's maybe just a matter of relaxing sufficiently to have those things arise. So
Has any of it arisen during your stay with us in this moment and in this
no,
past?
no, not really. No,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I've never tried to develop it so that I could be sort of like a consistent walking proof or anything like that, which at one point I wanted to do, but I was like, I think I'm too lazy. And it always works better for me when I'm not trying to make anything happen and things just kind of come as they do.
Well, Gino just arrived, and so hello, Gino. Gino, um, well, we have someone here who has had a near-death experience and also developed like an extraordinary inner peace. Do you have any comments or questions? I hope you
No.
watched the video.
Yeah, I saw it on the Facebook stream and thought I'd
Oh,
join. I'm greetings from Phnom Penh. I'm actually in Cambodia right now.
oh, fantastic, fantastic.
I do research in this area. I specialize in these spiritual emergency awakening experiences. And a close collaborator of mine who passed earlier late last year is a guy named Peter Fennick, who's the leading authority on near-death
Oh,
experience.
okay, yeah, yeah, I know the name. Yeah, yeah.
Now, what we're looking at neurologically, what's happening in one of these spiritual emergency awakening experiences, what happens in a near-death experience, and what happens with psychedelics. A large part of it seems like what happens, what you describe is exactly in the near-death literature, and a lot of people kind of go through
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
And then usually, even to the point of, random people saying the right thing at just the right time and everything, that happens in a very uncanny way. It seems like the subjective reality and the objective reality kind of merge
Yes.
for a
Yes.
while. And things, reality gets kind of wobbly as well too. And it sounds like you've gone through all of that. And then you're stable now, and then you're I guess teaching meditation and stuff, or
Yeah.
Oh,
Gino.
we just lost
Excellent.
Gino.
We just lost
Gino,
Gino.
Gino, you all right? Gino.
It's such an excellent dynamic pose. That's wonderful. I don't know if you can
Okay,
hear us, Gino, but maybe you
Gino,
can.
I'm gonna stop Gino's video. Gino, don't turn on the video. But try to talk to
one.
us. Okay, talk,
And
Gino.
then number two is
Oh no.
it, it, what you view is
Well, he's in Cambodia, you guys.
I get it. I get it. I get it.
But that's cool that he was watching it live stream on Facebook. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. This is if Gino, you're still on Facebook Live, I found that. So I've always been like also a bit of a rationalist at heart. So I don't like to be. I've had a woo-woo life, but I was always parsimonious in what I call a synchronicity versus what I'd refer to as a conclusion, a coincidence. And basically, what I found with all that meditation is that at this point, I would actually just kind of call life a movable feast of synchronicity, essentially. So to a certain extent, the synchronicitous, which used to be more of something that would be like, wow, out of left field, kind of, showed itself to be actually the core of everything,
Yeah.
in a very grounded way. So yeah, those things kind of merged and normalized in a way.
So arguably, I kind of disconnected there, surprise, surprise. But arguably, there's an understanding that there are bigger forces at work. The universe has a plan, and generally speaking, as long as you're kind of rolling with things, things just kind of happen, and you kind of know what to do. I think, I'm just kind of putting words in that. But this follow-on question, I don't know if it came through, is for
No.
people that are going through the process. What do you think can be done, especially for people that have been through the process? What can be done to support people going through the process? Because it's very disorienting. Other people are asking you, you're like, hey, why don't you just drive against the wall? Maybe you can get there yourself, or what have you. So there are people that are the seeker types that are trying to get to that state. And then there are other people that are kind of going through it. They're disoriented. They're going through dark night of the soul. They're getting downloads, all of this stuff. And they can't really make sense of the world, and things that used to matter to them, just kind of get exaggerated, et cetera. What, for people that have kind of gone through the process and are stable, what can be done to help people going through the process?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously, there's going to be different strokes for different folks, even amongst those categories, right? But mainly, I tend to think that people need something that either a meditation practice or something else that is reliable and consistent that can connect their nervous system to the ground of being in some way, to samadhi, to whatever you want to call it, that they bathe the nervous system sufficiently in that I find in most cases that tends to be a stabilizer.
But
That
you
that and
probably know, Ishtar, that, at 4 a.m. when surreal shit is happening and you can't sleep, and every second seems like an eternity, um, there really isn't, it's difficult. But what we found, is that if you have someone that can maintain eye contact with you, even online, and then just kind of
ah
into a deep presence kind of a thing, then make you aware of your breath and get you out of your head, and just be hyper aware of everything that's going on. And then if they can then cultivate greater somatic awareness and learn to self-regulate, understand the relationship between the breath
ah
and their state of being and all this, then at least they could probably hold them. And then if they can get sleep and take care of their physical health and everything, exercise and all of those things
yes.
will help them.
Oh
And then the
yes.
body will naturally want to heal itself. And so they'll get to kind of some stable point. And then once they have that, then the idea is to have other people that have been through the process to allow them to open the lid a little bit, but then be there to hold the space for them. And
Oh
just,
yes. That's lovely. And the eye contact in another person, and kind of going through stepwise like that.
yeah.
That I mean, if you have access to that, that's wonderful. Of course, at 4 in the a.m., not everyone's going to have access to that. Uh,
Well, it's
right.
if it's 4 a.m. in Portugal, it's maybe 3 in the afternoon in, like, I don't know, somewhere around the
Oh,
world.
sure, sure. Yeah, if you
So,
if you build a network.
but the
Yeah,
idea is
yeah.
to build a network like that, especially among people that have kind of been through the process. And so the question that I had for you is that, given that you've been through this and you're stable right now, what are you working on or towards, with your life, knowing that everything
Oh,
is urgent, et cetera, there are bigger forces at work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
filling out and being a better and trying to be an increasingly better surfer of the wave of life, or the wave of synchronicity, or the golden thread. Because there's so many ways and so many paths, or parts of this garden that I feel here, or petals of this flower that I have not tread in very much, that are not developed. I could invoke to a certain extent Ken Wilber's cleaning up, growing up, and doing something else up. Model. I forgot the thing. Right. Yeah, even though Mr. Wilbur has very interesting choice in gurus, but who don't seem to exemplify that. There is something to say that there is vertical. That I think it's interesting to say that there's a vertical growth into samadhi and then there's horizontal growth into life in certain ways, and so.
Related to this, for me, I think you can validate this. I'm just running this by you but these awakening experiences, it's one of those things where if I've had an experience and if you've had an experience, we can talk about it and get a sense of where each person's at. But if I've had an experience and you've never had an experience, nothing I say to you is going to give you any idea of what that experience is like.
Absolutely. It's like trying to describe chocolate.
And so for me, rather than trying to convince the masses, can you build community among the people that have been through the experience to help midwife other people going through the process? That's
that's a great thing. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing, I think. Yeah.
And then post-awakening, there are a couple fundamental truths, because some people see entities, some people hear voices, different people have different experiences. But post-awakening, I've got 5 fundamental truths. I want to just run them by you, see if you can help them validate for me. So these are always true under all circumstances, I would argue. Number 1 is that right here and right now, it's good to be alive. Number 2, the reality that you've been taught isn't the true reality.
Depends on who your teachers were, but yeah.
Well, whoever the teachers were,
right?
You have to find that within yourself. Number 3 is that if you live your deepest truth, whatever that may be for you, health, sustenance, and happiness are byproducts. The universe takes care of its own. You don't have to search externally. It's an internal journey. Number 4 is when you're working with other people in collaboration, if you're not having fun, you're not working, because arguably you're coming from the wrong place. And then number 5 is ultimately we all serve the same master. Who's running this show anyways?
There you go. I like those. I like especially 1, 2, and 5. And then 3 and 4, I would put caveats in there because I think those aren't always necessarily supposed to be so neat and tidy. Like for instance, I know some people, very dear friends who I think are absolutely living in wholeness and their health is shit, for instance. And I think, and then some people are going to have short lives too, as well. And so I think that there's it's a little bit more squiggly than to make a neat and tidy rule. And with number 4, I also think that some people are going to benefit from, even very people who are free and whole and experiencing that, from being in situations where they're absolutely feeling aggravated, and we'll have to go through like maybe say like a work experience, like if you're not having fun, you're not really working, like should maybe it's in their interest to actually be steered into some uncomfortable places, but otherwise, in principle, yeah, I absolutely like 3 and 4 as well.
And then you're based near Lisbon, or are you in Porto, or where in Portugal?
We are based near Lisbon. We are an hour and 15 minutes to the east of it in old Portuguese cowboy country.
There's actually do you know the international, I think there's the IAC, there's a whole...
I sent them an email. They didn't reply to me, but I didn't interpret that in any way.
And if you guys, if you hook me up, I know those guys. I can hook you up with them.
Oh, I'd love that because they're only like 30 minutes away from me, I think, or 40 minutes.
My friend Rodrigo is involved with them. He runs their research stuff there. Happy to connect you.
Oh, yeah.
And I have good community in Portugal, as in Lisbon as well. There's a big consciousness community. They're all around that whole area as well too.
Oh,
there's
that's
communities and everything. That's a hotbed.
There are that. It is a hotbed for it. I'd love to be connected. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
love to come to Phnom Penh.
Then the other thing that got me too is I'm a retired professor. I've taught for 35 years. I do research in consciousness. I specialize in these awakening experiences. Every class that I've ever taught, every student has had to watch the movie Baraka. and write about it. And so when I heard you mention Baraka as something you can watch over and over,
Oh my God. I will have to say, you know, when I watched that film, I think I was ripe for it. I mean, I was having probably Kundalini blasts and tears
yeah,
and the entire the yeah, it was
the Katsi trilogy are kind of dark, and Koyaanisqatsi, Pawakatsi, Nagoyakatsi,
yes,
and then
yep, yes.
Samsara gets a little bit off the track, but the way Baraka is just a beautiful work of art, and I just want
Yes.
to, just
Yes.
excellent choice.
Well, if you guys have access to the chat, why don't you exchange some information? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
I get access. I mean, I'll give it to everyone here. It's my email
Oh, thank you.
address, one of them.
Oh,
Please feel free to send emails. I like
yes.
I always like getting emails. Oh, look at that. A WhatsApp number. I will take a picture of that. There we go.
All right. So, Ishtar. Well, first of all, Angela, are you able to talk, Angela? This is such a subject of passion for her. Are you there, Angela?
Muted.
All right. Yes. I requested she unmute, but it hasn't happened
I'm
yet. Oh,
here.
there you go.
I'm listening.
Is that all, Angela? You just want to
I
listen?
really have nothing to contribute today, Dan.
All right, fine, no problem.
Okay. But I am enjoying the
Nice
group.
to meet you, Angela.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
So, Ishtar, what are your vices?
Oh, food. I think food can definitely be a vice. Not so much sugary things. Yeah, salty things. So that's a vice. I think that counts as a vice. Of let's see. That at this point, I think that's the primary one. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, how does like chips, right? Like how does it like
Chorizo.
the chorizo, you mean like the sausages, like
Yeah, indeed,
the
something like
spicy
that.
sausage. All
Yes,
right.
indeed. Yeah.
Now like is there a spiritual experience to eating that stuff?
I mean, in moderation, especially, yes, but or more like jambalaya or gumbo. It's just still it can be easy for me to eat a little bit too much, and so I have to. That's one where I have to kind of like remember to eat to so-called Okinawa full. You know that's something I have to could sort of train myself to do. So yeah, but is there a spiritual thing to eating that stuff? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just enjoyable and pleasurable. Yeah.
All right. All right.
Okay.
Oh, yes, Marcel.
I have a question. The other man from Cambodia mentioned IAC, but can you explain to me what IAC is? Ishtar, maybe you know?
I forgot what the acronym stands for, so I cannot.
But what is the organization?
They do a lot of stuff with, as far as I remember, they do a lot of stuff with out of body experience research and things of that nature. Of
Uh,
Yeah, it feels like the Monroe Institute with a Portuguese accent to me, but um,
okay.
So Isha,
I
you mentioned. Oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
oh yeah, Gino put it in the chat. IAC Portugal Consciousness.
Wait,
Okay,
wait, no.
no,
That's that
there.
was the search. That's the link to their
Ah,
site.
that's the world. Okay,
The International Academy of Consciousness.
that's it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're like
So
a Monroe Institute. They have a building just for
Like
out of
this.
body experiences and everything.
Yeah. See, that's what I got in trouble for when I came to the ashram. They're like, one of the main teachers she was like, oh. you're flying around. We need to get you into your body." So that it became a different sort of thing. And they would I came in a fruitarian at that time, and no, they suggested I have a cheeseburger every now and again, so something like that. Because man, I would be like,
Helps to ground you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I would sometimes it got to the point where I was waking up by flying into my body, from the ceiling, and then waking up with a start. And then some of the people were very sort of, I guess, psychically open, and they would chastise me. They were saying like, "We saw you above the yoga mats looking at us," and yeah, it's like, yes, indeed, I was. I thought I was just
Good.
dreaming.
Ishtar, I've got a network of people that have these kind of gifts. And so the part of what we're working on and towards, once you're stabilized, is kind of like a global decentralized modern mystery school. And so if you can
Ah,
leave your body, where do you go to learn
oh,
what you should and shouldn't do and everything? And we have a whole global network of people.
oh, that's cool. That's cool.
And just to let you know, there's a reason they call it ground beef. Okay. So Fred, Fred, are you there, Fred? Please introduce yourself, Fred, and tell us anything you like.
I'm here. I'm not sure quite what to say. I find this fascinating. I have not had, well, I had tripping experiences that are
Mm,
similar, but
yeah,
but it's not my perspective on life.
mm,
Can you explain that further, Fred? Not your perspective.
I tend to be more of a rationalist. I tend
ah,
to, which is so I may be, um, I do engage in contemplation, meditation,
yeah,
self-examination, et cetera, et cetera. And maybe Dan, what Dan is driving at is that I'm a Quaker.
oh,
And
excellent.
yeah, so if you're familiar with the Society of Friends and at least
Yes,
liberal practice, it's self-directed, it's internally directed. Um, there's the deep belief that one can communicate directly with the divine, however
yeah,
one wants to define that. Um, and Quakerism attracts a lot of people who have had the kinds of experiences that you and Gino are talking about.
sure
Um,
does.
and so I have my own experience of that. But
Yeah.
as I said, it tends to be more rational based, logical based.
Well, God bless you, Frederick. I used to play a rationalist. I can do that, but I actually still am in many ways. I have to say that some of my best times when I lived in Portland, Oregon, is I meditated every Wednesday with the Quakers on my university campus.
Ah,
So
okay.
so yeah, it was like a noontime meditation, and yeah, that was great fun.
Yeah,
Great fun.
they tend to be more evangelical up in the Northwest,
Do they? Yeah, a lot of them go to this place. Yeah, George Fox
but it,
University. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah, that's quite evangelical.
Yeah,
Um,
don't worry. They were there. No, once you're in Portland, Oregon, then it's
yeah, no, I
you're
get
chilled
that.
out.
No, I get that. Yeah, throughout the Northwest, you in the big cities, you've got all the different branches of Quakerism. Meetings may be a block or two apart, but they're worlds apart in their approaches. Um,
Mm, mm, mm.
Hey, Ted, you've been silent this whole time. Do you have any thoughts, Ted? You got to unmute though, Ted. Still muted, Ted.
It's in the bottom left corner. You have to put your cursor down to the screen, then the toolbar pops up.
Let me help you out. There should be a pop-up now that says Unmute me. Okay, good.
I'm just listening. I don't really have meditative experiences. I'm not really rational. I'm more emotional. And I wish I wasn't so emotional, but I am. But I'm just listening and trying to understand what's going on, basically.
Awesome.
Let's see, Ted, have you ever experienced like a profound sense of peace and awareness?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Like I was at a lake at a park with my mother and my sister, and I felt a sense of peace there in the lake in the park. Sometimes I do. But a lot of the time I'm very emotional. A lot of the time, I'm just very emotional. I have a lot of mood swings.
Well, may you find. Oh, is someone talking? Well, may you find
Marcel.
Ted. Oh, okay. Just okay. Go ahead, Marcel.
I'm sorry. Ted, did you ever try going to YouTube and going to search on YouTube and you can type in meditation to calm your mind or meditation for anxiety or meditation for anything,
I
and
should,
you can choose from different meditations and they calm your anxiety, they calm your mind. That's what I do. I get a lot of anxiety and I have Clonopin, but of course it's addictive. But so I go to YouTube and you click on where it says home and you click on up to search and you go to, and you type in meditation for anxiety or meditation to calm your mind.
I'll
And
have
it
to do that.
really helps. It really
Uh,
helps.
I'll have to do that. I just started taking vitamin B complex, which is helping a little bit. I'm
Oh,
taking that every day, and that's
mm,
helping a
Mm.
little bit.
that's good. That's good.
Mm.
All right, Ishtar, we have 7 minutes left.
Wow.
Yes, we breezed through this project here. Um, why don't we try just 2 minutes of silence? I'm going to mute everyone and we'll try that for a minute. See if we can find our peace. All right. Now, Ishtar, how and why did you get the name Ishtar? You were originally a Peter, right?
No, no, I was Thomas.
Oh, Thomas.
Yeah, I could have easily been a Peter. No, I took these monastic vows, which I didn't have to take, but I felt like that's the thing to do. And when I did that, one of the main teachers, I suppose there was a little bit of a committee that was discussing what they ought to call me. They gave me this name, and here I was in like a nice benign cult, and everyone's getting these Sanskrit names, and I thought, oh, I'm going to get myself a proper Sanskrit name or something like that, and I did not get a Sanskrit name, and nor is the etymology of it related to the Babylonian goddess of damn near everything, which I'd be fine with actually. That would bother me. I was in fact strangely given the name of, funnily, an 8 to 10 foot tall blue immortal humanoid type being, which is bizarre to be named after some kind of ancient alien from the meditation uh, founder's pet mythology. But it turned out to be kind of strangely synchronicitous because I did not tell anybody about this repeating dream that I had. I had it only twice at age 6 and age 13. It was the most powerful dream that I ever had in my young life, maybe my whole life. I would have this dream, and I was basically an 8 to 10 foot tall blue skinned being standing in a great big vast beautiful field. Maybe looked like the Mongolian steppe or something like that in terms of landscape. Perfectly lovely scene, and then except I was completely grief stricken. Everybody I'd ever loved was dead or had gone somewhere else, and here I was going to live forever. And the sky was so, it was as if the whole sky and the entire environment was made of grief. And the dream became painful to be in. And I would wake up to my own screaming with my parents and my sister in my room trying to physically hold my body down as if it was, trying to go somewhere. So I had this dream at age 6, and then I had it again at age 13. I was at age 13 when I was in it. I instinctively thought I have to try to make it through this dream. So I was just trying to beat the grief in some way, but I couldn't. Again, I woke up in the same scenario. And then at age 20, in the middle of a very long meditation retreat, immersive 6 month meditation retreat, I had the dream again, and only I made it all the way to the end without any incident and with no trauma. And I haven't had the dream since. But that dream scenario actually related strangely to the writings about the name I was given, which was I found strange and interesting. So here I walk around with a very strange name of a Babylonian goddess. Yeah.
Oh, Ishtar is a Babylonian goddess.
Yes, yes, yeah, the goddess of everything, yeah. But that's not,
Oh,
again, that's not the etymology, but that'd be fine with me because that's the then years later I was doing a contracting job in Portland, and somebody asked me my name, the client, and I told them Ishtar, and then their face went completely white. I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No, I was one of the producers of that film. Uh, we didn't know what we were doing." It almost fell on me. I had to stabilize him. That was so. I guess it gets to be used for shock value in a unforeseen way as well. Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Yeah, it's known as one of the worst films ever made, right? I think.
I've never seen it. I heard it was underrated, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Nobody has
Um,
seen it.
Maybe if you have like just some morbid curiosity about it. I mean, it has some great actors.
That,
Um,
With
yeah,
Dustin
yeah.
Hoffman, didn't it?
yeah,
Dustin
Dustin
Hoffman
Hoff.
and Warren Beatty tried to be Bing Crosby and Bob Hope in a modern setting. What could go wrong? Uh, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you, Ishtar. I hope you can come again next year. That would be really cool. And thank you for
Always.
like that. Great, great, great. I hope you had a good experience. Um, the video will go out and more people will see it, hopefully. And I hope to see everyone next week. Ishtar, would you like to close this out with some words?
Oh, sure. So there's this lovely I think lovely quotation, I think by one of the Saint Anthony's. I'm not, but which is to meditate and pray till you become the prayer. Which I should switch to meditate until you do the meditation. I once a big part of my growth was working in our monastic restaurant, and sometimes I worked an awful lot, opening up at 6 a.m. and closing at 10 p.m. So that's what, 16 hours or something like that. Yeah. And so I didn't have as much time for closed-eyed meditation, so I would be doing open-eyed practice, effortless practice of mantras while I'd chop onions and potatoes and stuff like that. And I often didn't really notice anything sublime happening. I just was beavering away at it. And then one day, chopping onions, I suddenly just realized that I hadn't had a thought for God knows how long, and that I was completely in my body, and yet I was everywhere all at once, and I was bigger than the entire restaurant. And that had been going on without me knowing it. Just living from that space. And then sort of in that moment I realized, oh my God, okay, thank goodness for all of these mantras, because the slow drip, 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 with sometimes not much fanfare does go to someplace. And I also would like to mention that, basically everybody has these wonderful poems in them. These poems of presence. These whether you want to call them prayer or the breath or mantra, these are all poems. And if you simply just um, relax into them as if you are taking in a delightful piece of poetry, and follow their logic where they go, it goes to a wonderful place. So that's what we'll close with.
Thank you, Ishtar. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And remember, spiritual experiences happen every day.
Every fucking day.
Bye, everybody.